Hello, neighbor. Just checking back in with you. Trying to prep some stuff for later on, the meal later on today. The other day when my neighbor from downstairs brought me that huge box of food, that case of food, there were two huge pork loins in there. I'm going to put this in the refrigerator so it can thaw. I like having them thaw pretty naturally, as much as possible without getting too. I don't want to leave it in the sink. I want it to thaw, but still be in an environment where it's cool enough that everything, thaws out at a good natural rate. And then when it is thawed later this evening, I will section off that pork tenderloin into five or so sections, and then I can cook sections of it in the air fryer. I can do it that way, so that way I'm not expecting myself to eat the entire pork tenderloin by myself, all in one sitting, obviously. But I want to be able to do it in the air fryer so that it's not taking forever like in the crock pot, which I do enjoy the crock pot. But I'm just trying to simplify things, and I don't necessarily want to have pork tenderloin every day, several times a day for right now. But I also mentioned earlier that I received some corn. So I'm going to shuck the corn. Got plenty of silk on it that needs to be, the corn silk that will need to be pulled off. And some of the ears of corn that I received, some are good and some are not as great, and you can't really tell on the outside so much, but once you peel and get into it, you can see what you have to work with. So, like, take for example this one. It has more up around the top with all of these areas. After I finish peeling the silk and everything, I will cut it below the bad area so the bad part can be tossed in the garbage. There's no sense in keeping the part that's not going to be really edible for me. But it's good having some fresh produce, whenever you're able to. It's good to have canned goods, and it's good to dehydrate stuff, as you know, but it is good to have fresh produce. So it's like, while you can get it fresh, get it, prepare it. If you're going to put it in the freezer, you might want to blanch it first, meaning boil some water. You can put the corn in a pot like this, or otherwise this one has its own little cage in it. That way I can stand the corn up in there, and when I get the water to a rolling boil, turn it off, put the corn in, dip it, wait for a minute, take it back out, and let it cool off, and then the corn can be put away in freezer bags or whatever. Blanching is good because it kind of helps plump up those kernels, and your corn is so juicy and full of flavor. And it's just a good idea to not waste produce. It's been a challenging season with the virus and all the shut-ins and the difficulties for farmers and farmers markets, etc. So if you're able to get some of these deals that are out there right now, with this being towards the end of the season, I'd say grab whatever deals you're able to, and be like the ant that stored away food for the harder times. Always best to be prepared. See, some of these ears of corn really are not so bad. There's a little bit at the top that will need to be cut out of it, but for the most part, it's not so bad. And I remember the days when you could get 3 to 4 ears of corn for $1, and this was 5 ears of corn. 5 ears of corn right now will cost you $2, or at least when I went to the global market and I was checking out some corn, that was the going rates that they had there. So even the things that were in the past more readily available and easy to work with, you know, the things that were cheaper, much more affordable, the price has doubled because it's been a hard time, you know. So why it's important to support our local farmers and support our local stores, because the small businesses, they do need your support, especially with all the crazy stuff that's gone on this year and a lot of businesses ending up having to close because of the violence and the riots and all the negative activity that's going on. So it's good to try to be a good steward for yourself and for others, and be prepared, especially with things like food, water, you know, shelter, emergency plan. Those are some basics that everybody could use to be ready for whatever situation may come up. And if you're like me and you're not someone that's going to eat an entire ear of corn all at once, then once you get the outside shucked off and you get all of the corn silk peeled off, you know, and you could just like roll your hand around it, and the rest of that silk will come off pretty easily, so that it's a nice clean ear of corn. You may want to either break with your hand or take a knife on the cutting board and cut off the part where it's not so good, so you can toss that. And with the rest of it, you can cut in half, because maybe only half of that ear is something that you would really reasonably eat in one sitting. And if you have 5 ears and you're cutting them all in half, that's going to give you 10 meals worth of corn to eat. And there are some people, when I first moved here to Minnesota, there were some people that I met that said that when they were younger, their parents would go out on the farm, collect the corn, take part of the corn, and after they shucked it and washed it and cleaned it and cut off the bad part, they would take a knife or a sharp edge and they would cut down the side to cut the corn kernels off and store the corn kernels in those little milk cartons like what you had in grade school. You can do that in a little milk carton if you've washed and cleaned your milk carton. People can still do that and stack it and store it in the freezer. I mean, I do that with other vegetables in my freezer. I can show you real quick. It's not a milk carton, but these nice little handy dandy containers hold a good cup of vegetables. So like there's corn, and there is some mixed vegetables, and they stack really easy in the freezer, so that way I can stack them, have them in there, and when I'm ready to prepare a meal, I just pull out the one that I need. If it's green beans, lima beans, okra, whatever it is, and I can set it in the refrigerator so that it can thaw during the day, then pour it out into my meal that I'm preparing. You know, if I'm doing a one dish or one pot meal, or I can put it into the pot or the pan or whatever. If I want to make things really easy and do everything in the oven, thaw that a little bit, empty it into the container, and have it in the oven, and let it heat up that way in the oven. Add a little butter or flavoring or whatever that I need to go with that at that time. It's just very simple. And then when I'm done using these cute little easy recyclable containers, I actually recycle them in a different way. I don't put them out in the recycle bin. After I'm done using it that way, I actually rinse it out and use it to put the kitty litter in, so that when I'm cleaning up behind my cat, I can put the lid back on this. There's no odor. It's set aside, ready to go out into the garbage the next time I go outside. No fuss, no bother. So these work just as good as it would be to have those little cute little pints of milk, like milk cartons like they did in the grade school and in some food service programs. It works just as good. And if you don't have that, you can always use like a Ziploc bag or something, and you can still, after you cook your corn or whatever, you can cut the corn off, or you can cut it in pieces and have the sections of it in a larger Ziploc bag, so when you're ready to prepare a meal, you can take out what you need. If you're just cooking for one, you take out for that one. If you're cooking for several people, you can take out a section of corn for each person that's going to be there at that meal. And it makes everything come together really easy. You've already done your prep work, so that way it makes it easy and delicious. And with doing the prep work in advance, like now, it makes things a lot quicker and less fussy for you later. Well, I'm going to wash these ears of corn and prep them to go into my tall pot, and I'm going to cook them down. I'll cut them in half and cook them down so that they are actually at serving sizes, and it makes it a lot easier to work with, it a lot easier for me to eat in the future when I'm ready for that. But I hope you're having a great day. It's raining in some parts. I've heard that it was raining in Ohio. It's not raining where I am, but it's very, very chilly. It feels like it's time to start pulling out the sweaters and circulating the clothes that I have, so that I can have an easy access the things that I'm going to need for the cooler weather, because it's pretty cool and I'm going to have to take my last twin fan out of the window today, because I'm not sure it's going to get much warmer here anytime soon. But have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. And I hope you've had an opportunity to gather some deals, or maybe you've gone by somewhere where there is some food offerings that you can use to store up for a rainy day, or food that you can even eat today. Until later, be good to yourself and to those that you care about.